Florida Panthers are now on the brink of elimination, but hanging in tough. Armando Velez of Locked On Florida Panthers joins us to discuss how the Panthers fell behind in the series and what it'll take to get back in it. All that and more on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast, to get new episodes as soon as they drop. And we're also now available on SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search for Locked On NHL. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the show the host of Locked On Florida Panthers, the very busy, very in tune with everything that's going on in the Stanley Cup final, the Mondo man, Armando Velez. And Armando, great to have you back on the show. Tough game last night or Saturday night for the Panthers. What happened that they fell behind 3-0 and then had to claw their way back in?
Yeah. Gil, I want to thank you so much for having me on the show, regardless of whether the Florida Panthers are clawing their way back to get to a wild card spot, down 3-1 in a series, and even once again down 3-1 in the Stanley Cup final. But with the Panthers, it just comes down to miscommunications. They still don't have a power play goal in the series. They're 0 for 13. Yeah, they had a power play with 17 seconds left, and so that makes it 0 for 13 for them. And it's just really a lot of miscommunications in their own end. And games 1 and 2, you saw a lot of Sergei Bobrovsky being screened by his own man, and also the Vegas Golden Knights going out in transition, which the Vegas Golden Knights are a fast team. They're deep. They've shown that even through injury that they're able to overcome their fair share of injuries. I mean, Bradko Gudas goes out both in games 1 and game 2. He returns in game 1, but doesn't in game 2. Matthew Tkachuk gets hit in game 3 and is basically hobbling throughout the latter part of game 3 and most of game 4 as well. And to think that Matthew Tkachuk has 4 shots on goal in games 4, still it's incredible that he's even out there. The fact that he has been ailing, but it's just really about the Panthers out of their own end. Vegas taking advantage, tight forechecking, and on the Vegas defensive end, they're not letting anything up the middle on Adin Hill. I mean, you look at even the second goal of the game in game 4. What happens? A clean entry, chips it up, and Montour hands it to Alexander Barkov. And there's no defenseman there to protect Adin Hill, and Barkov's able to beat Adin Hill's short side there. So it's just a few breaks here and there. I mean, the first one, it's a pinball deflection, kind of a little bit of luck for the Panthers, but the Vegas Golden Knights, they're well in gaining the zone, letting the plays develop, let the trailers come, and then having a feed up to the point where they even if it's a shot from there and saved and screened, they're able to create deflections because they're very fast at retrieving pucks as well to continue cycling it around, or even for second chance opportunities, which you saw the third one, which Gudas gets a block and Wild Bill William Karlsson gets it in, and it basically puts it out of reach for the Panthers.
You talked about the power play and its struggles. What do they have to do, the Panthers, to get the power play back on track? Because it's been good for most of the season.
Yeah, I mean, this is the part of the Stanley Cup final where you are not expected even to go to the up a man much. I mean, yeah, I know that there's a lot of penalties called in game 3 from both sides of the coin, but even in game 2, there was a power play where the Panthers, the puck movement was great for them, but it's just the finishing ability for the Panthers. But honestly, this is going to be a series that is going to be continued. You're going to need to win it at 5-on-5 as well for this team as well, as much, even though the Panthers are over on the power play because of the lack of expectation for your man up advantages there. So I mean, the Panthers won game 3, giving up 2 power play goals, and then that's it. It was the game 3 of the Stanley Cup final was very reminiscent to game 1 of the Eastern Conference final, where Bobrovsky's only goals given up were on the penalty kill. So that's really what's gonna have to, for the Panthers. That's really what the Panthers are gonna have to win hockey games with. And the Panthers, I believe I said this last week, they are by weight the smallest team in the NHL, while Vegas is in the top 5 of weight, and it's really showing how they're able to just push the Panthers around, force them on the perimeter. I mean, and especially when the top D pair for the Vegas Golden Knights, you have Alec Martinez and Alex Pietrangelo there, 2 guys who have won Stanley Cups as well there, who are very responsible in their own zone and can score as well with the best of them for their blue line.
You talked about Matthew Tkachuk and the fact that he's banged up. How important is getting him back on the ice for game 5 and productive for this Florida Panthers team?
The Panthers go outside of Sergei Bobrovsky. The Panthers go as Tkachuk goes. That's just what it is. And he's changed the dimension of this team. He's changed the vibes around it. And it's also proven Bill Zito right when it came to making that trade back in late July last year, and just his ability to get the Panthers not necessarily over the top because they haven't won the Stanley Cup, but getting them closer to being over the top and getting them into a position where they're even here to battling for the Stanley Cup. I mean, People Magazine had Matthew Tkachuk as a feature for a face because he's very vocal on and off the ice, and just a personality that people want to be around. And of course, the history with the Tkachuk family matters. But I mean, it's very crucial when it comes to him getting his game right, because I mean, he wasn't in warmups before game 4. He wasn't even shooting the puck. So that says something about how the Vegas Golden Knights are going to approach even getting in front of the face of Matthew Tkachuk, because I mean, he's a left-handed shot, and the hit favored him on his right side. So his right shoulder is going to be in front of the Vegas defenders, so they are more than likely to make contact with that side too. So that's that part is the more exposed part as far as when the Panthers are in their offensive zone. So it's a big cause of concern as well going to the rest of this series. But the Panthers, they have never won a road game, regular season nor post, in Vegas. Why not Tuesday night? Why not?
Well, they're going to have to win 2 of them in order to win the Stanley Cup. But hey, they've won 3 in a row in this playoff series before. Let's see if they have one more streak in them. Armando, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they can find the podcast and where they can find you on social media?
They can follow me on Twitter at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on Twitter and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. And during the summer, I'm usually tweeting about baseball and golf. But I hope, Gil, that I could delay that for one more week. That's my hope, as hoping that the Panthers do complete this 3-1 comeback once again, like they did in round 1.
Yeah, like you said, they did it in round 1 against the best team by record in the NHL. Let's see if they have one more in them. Armando, thanks as always for joining us today.
Thank you as always, Gil.
Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. Well, it's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure the part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. So get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit available only to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.